Tarron's going to take us through building turrets because we're going to be having a upcoming game and there's going to be some turrets for me to take on.
Yes, this was a slog, but it was a slog over like a few hours rather than weeks because I procrastinate like a champion. Laser turret buildings.
I mean, it's bad enough that I have to take on a prison with these big walls and all that sort of thing. But we decided that, yeah, let's just put some turrets on there. We've just realised we haven't actually really looked at the rules for turrets, so...
No. And one thing that is going to happen is the rules for turrets, because they're a building, they use a little bit from buildings, but they also reference the mobile structure rules. And I couldn't actually find a BV calculator for a building, but there are BV calculations for mobile structures. So I thought, well, I'll use those, and that should be accurate enough.
Yeah, that's okay. Enough.
So right. It's cool. So I've even worked out the BV, and it comes out to 62 per unit. But let's have a look here. This is almost all going to be in TAC Ops, just in case you're wondering. Page 128. When you are using BattleTech, you are jumping between books. Put down. So I've got my scribble here that I did, but when I initially started doing it, I wrote down what I was looking for and then the page number where I found it. That way you can just go back to it whenever you need to.
And I have mine here with nothing on it, but it makes me look smarter.
Well, do you want to write down what I'm doing?
So I know.
So it's nice and neat?
Yeah, it's nice and neat.
Well, this is not really...
It looks like you've done a few modifications here and there. So.
Yeah, I've had to do some stuff.
Tarron's turrets.
Tarron's
that could be a new thing. Tarron's turrets. You could design the most weird and obscure turrets. It shoots battle armor or something out of it.
I was just looking at rules for picking up battle armor, actually, and throwing them. You can do
that's
that.
What you do.
It's a rule.
That's what you do. Tarron's turret. I like it.
Wereman's Workshop.
Tarron's turrets.
All right, enough silliness. The construction for buildings isn't as restrictive as building an actual combat unit like a mech or a vehicle, right? This is all basically just choosing what you want.
Okay.
Right, and then the numbers work out based on what you choose. Okay, so you can go back through and muck around with it and stuff. There's very little actual problems. What you do have to pick is a superstructure. So you have to have the building's technology base, its classification, structure type, size, and construction factor. Now, I want to build a turret. The turrets are always going to be 1 level high and 1 hex.
1 level high and 1 hex.
1 hex. So they count technically as a parked vehicle, right? So they're technically an immobile vehicle, but they use the rules for buildings to actually break them. So you're not getting motive hits or anything weird like that, but they treat it as if it's a parked vehicle for that sort of thing. So what I went with was a 1 hex, 1 level.
Now, when you say a parked vehicle, does that mean in a mobile?
Yeah, so immobile.
So parked okay.
It's just like they've taken the tracks off a tank and stuck it there and gone, okay, that's your turret sort of thing, right? So I went for a 1 hex, 1 level, medium gun emplacement type. Now, there's a chart there on page 115 of the TAC Ops book. You're allowed to have light, medium, heavy, or hardened, which I think we've gone through at some point.
We have, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Gun emplacements can only ever be 1 hex, 1 level. You can see that on the chart there too. They have no movement point cost, obviously. They have no piloting or driving skill, obviously. They have damage scaling, and yeah. So
right.
I've gone with 20 CF. for my
20 CF.
20 CF for my construction factor.
So it's got so 16 to 40 are your choices.
Is medium, yeah.
Okay.
So I've gone with 20 simply because it was a nice round number. I didn't want to muck around. I thought, oh, I could make it 30-ish or just, 20. 20 will do. 20 will do. And 20 is enough that unless you bring something really, really big, you're going to have to work to kill it in one turn, right? 20 points of damage isn't hard to do in one turn, but it's difficult to do with like one weapon. Right?
Yeah.
So you've got to take
I know what you
an
mean,
Act 20 or a heavy PPC or something to do 20 points of
20
damage.
points of damage. Okay.
In one gun, right? If you shoot a dozen medium lasers at it, you're going to bring it down anyway. But
Yeah.
so I didn't want it one hit, one kill sort of thing. Okay. So we have that. We have that. Now, what you're allowed to do is where is it? Internal weight capacity. So, for each hex of area covered, all advanced buildings except for tents, hangars, fences, and bridges can internally carry a total tonnage of equipment, including weapons, heat sinks, and armor, equal to their construction factor times the number of levels of structure height. Which basically means I can carry 20 tons. Right. So I have a weight limit of 20 tons. That includes weaponry. It includes space and equipment and facilities for any crew that you put in there. It includes heat sinks, everything. That 20 tons is all you can put in there. Okay?
Right. Okay.
So you can see if you make that a 40 CF building, then you can fit 40 tons in there. So it's still one hex and one level, but you can double the amount of stuff. I mean, if you go up to, was it heavy or hardened? Hardened is the highest one. And I think the max CF that they list is 150, which means that technically you can have a gun emplacement with 150 tons of equipment able to be put on it, which is just silly.
Yes.
Because you can technically get a cruise missile onto 150 tons. It won't be the biggest one, but you can get it on there.
Big enough.
Big enough.
Big enough. Well, there's also, look, we're going to be going into the aerospace stuff, of course, and there's like, they have like surface to orbit weapons.
Yep.
So and that's what you do with those, I'd say.
Yep. You can technically put capital scale and whatever is near capital or sub-capital or whatever it is, those bigger weapons and the missiles and things onto a turret on land if you want to, and then shoot them up at aerospace. So that's a thing. So we've got the construction factor. We've got my weight limit. We've got our size, our shape. So step 2, we're installing armor. Now, buildings are able to be, they're buildings, so that you can't destroy them until you take away the CF. But in gameplay, you're allowed to actually have a military building with armor as well.
Really?
Yes. So you install it by the ton, just the same way as you do with, like combat vehicles and things.
Okay.
So it's like you've got like a concrete bunker or something, but then you've gone and you've riveted like metal plates over the top of it. So you've got the CF of the building, and you've also got a certain tonnage, a certain number of points of armor.
Wow.
But they don't do it like armor on vehicles and mechs and things. They do it as just completely abstract, and it just adds to the amount of damage that you have to do to kill the building, basically.
Right.
So you have to do the CF in damage, but you also have to kill the armor.
Okay. So I take it the armor damage comes off first. Does any of it? Is it?
It's basically just because there's not really any critical hits or anything like that for buildings either. It's just once you get the CF, it doesn't function anymore.
Yeah, true. Okay. So it's just armor, then CF,
so
and
it's just armor and CF. Okay. Now, I put 1 ton of armor on mine. For Innisphere Tech, which we're going Innisphere Tech, you get 16 points per ton, as per standard. And that means that technically you have to do 36 points of damage to each of those turrets in order to bring them down, to stop them working. Okay?
Right.
And that's just how they do it. As far as I can tell, that is just how you do it. It's just that adds to the thing. And again, you can put capital scale armor on there. We haven't got into that, but you can do it. So yeah, which is funky.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we have to install components. Now it says here, this is the first reference. So you are referencing all weapons, heat sinks, other equipment in accordance with the rules for mounting weapons and equipment on mobile structures. Okay, so there's some exceptions. Power systems are not necessary because you're in a building and you're connected to power, unless you want to be off that.
Okay.
Right, you don't have to be connected to it. You can technically build a power system into your building. Okay, I didn't because I don't want to muck around with it, but you can. Okay, so you can have them separately powered. So if some bright spark goes, we shoot all the power lines, then it'll go down. No.
Or does it?
It's generated.
Right.
So you can have a number of different power supplies and things like that. It goes into the differences in there. If you're going to get full on into this, then you're going to get this book anyway, and you'll be able to see what the deal is. But I didn't bother with that. I've connected them to the standard power. Okay? Power amplifiers are worth talking about because even though you are connected to power, to fire powered weapons, energy weapons, you still need to have a power amplifier that is normal, right? So you need to add the power amplifiers and things in.
Okay. So that's much the same way as with the vehicles with an internal combustion engine?
With an internal combustion engine, yeah. It's
Right.
the same sort of deal, right? The weight of amplifiers is 10% of the weight of all weapons mounted in the hex. Okay, so if you have multiple hex stuff, or you've got a hex over here and a hex over here, the stuff that's in that hex is what contributes to the power amplifiers. You don't go, okay, so they're all there and I'll just put it here, sort of thing. So each turret has its own power amplifiers in the turret.
Right. Okay. So, well, that's good because then they're sort of self-sufficient.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah. So if we go to 266, which is where the mobile structure rules are. Now, the mobile structures we haven't really done, but they're things like the dropship mover is a good example. It's basically just a big mobile platform that you can sit a dropship on quite happily and move it around. It's a 19 hex mobile structure.
Well, you'd need that because they're pretty heavy.
Yeah, but that is wider than a map sheet.
Yeah.
So if you want to do mobile structures, you can go for it, but they can get freaking big.
Go watch Mortal Engines. That movie, Mortal Engines.
Yeah, you could do that.
That's
yeah, you could definitely do that.
Other ones.
That is a mobile structure.
That'd be cool.
The other example they give is a cool one. That's the. Do you know about the airship cities, or the air cities?
Airship cities.
Yeah, so it was basically like this huge airship, but they had buildings and stuff on them, and it was like an aircraft carrier and all sorts of stuff. They were enormous.
Wow, was this a movie or something?
No, this is a
it's in there.
BattleTech thing. Yeah, it's a BattleTech thing. That's one of the things that they do. So what's he building? It's a.
Wow.
They tell you what it is. Skybase.
A sky base.
Floating city and headquarter platform.
Ooh.
It's a fortress type. No, so he can't make it a fortress type because you can't have air motive systems. But yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but I could probably look it up on Sana when we get a chance.
Wow. Okay.
So what you're basically doing is... Where are we? I went to 265 instead of 266. Okay, there we are. So we're installing weapons, heat sinks, and equipment. Look at me being prepared and stuff. Boom. Now.
All right. So when
you can,
which is the best way to do it then? To this part. Which is the best order to do it in?
Well, if you just follow the list for for the building construction on 128. Right, so design process. It's the same as
Just
building
follow
a mech.
that, okay.
You just follow the steps and you're fine. So we've installed armor, now we're installing weapons, heat sinks, equipment and control systems.
All right.
And that, to do that, it's the same as doing it for a mobile structure.
Right.
Which is here.
Okay. All right then. Okay.
So you are only allowed to mount heavy weapons, and they count heavy weapons as any weapon you could normally put on a mech or a vehicle.
All right.
Not like handguns and things like that, right? So you're not mounting
They're not
battle
like
armor
personal
weapons,
and
personal
all that,
weapons,
right, okay.
infantry weapons, those sort of things. You're mounting mech and vehicle scale weapons.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So what they've got there is the maximum tonnage of such weapons that may be mounted per hex, discounting ammunition, turret mechanisms, and heat sinks, is equal to the Fortress CF divided by 10 per level of structure. So what I've got there is a bit of a problem, but if you flick back to this, heavy weapons. So they say the exception being gun emplacements which may mount weapons equal to their CF divided by 3 rounded down. Okay? Oh. So, yeah, so it gives me about 7-ish tons to play with. But if you've got 150 CF, then you've got 50 tons that you can stick on. So that's not bad. Okay, so that's heavy mounted heavy weapons. So what I've got here is I just put 2 medium lasers on there.
All right, so weapons.
So weapons.
2 times medium lasers.
They're a heavy weapon. They're under the CF allowance, the tonnage allowance that I've got. They're powered, which is fine. I've got to add stuff for that. So that's 2 tons out of my 20 allowance. Then I have to have fire control system. Where did the fire control systems? There it is. So under fire control systems for heavy weapons, it gets a little complex. It says that you don't have to actually put fire control systems in when employing non-missile capital scale weapons, in which case see the rules above for mounting capital weapons. So need not invest in fire control systems as they receive such systems automatically when mounting any weapons.
Right.
But it says specifically in the turret one, in the building one, that you have to have fire control systems and things. I went with this. So that means I have to look at the capital scale weapon structure, the fire control edition. And fire control for that is an extra 10% of the weapon's weight. Which means my fire control for each medium laser is 0.1 ton. And my power amplifier for each laser is 0.1 ton.
Fire control system, was it?
Yeah. So fire control is 0.1 times 2, and power amplifiers is 0.1 times 2. So for weapons, power amplifiers, control systems, all of that, it all comes to a total of 2.4 tons, which is minuscule, right? It's nothing.
Okay.
Now, they are energy weapons, and this is a thing firing energy weapons, so I need heat sinks.
Okay.
So there's 6 tons worth added in for heat sinks because that's 3 heat per medium laser.
Heat sinks.
It is 3 heat per medium laser.
It is, yeah.
So 6 standard heat sinks.
6 standard heat sinks, yep. So all up, I've used 9.4 out of my 20 tons, and I can't be bothered doing anything else with it. There's nothing else there that I really wanted. So the other thing that I did want, though, is to be able to put an automatic weapon system in there. Now, on page 133, we have automated weapons. Automated weapon systems are available to any advanced building that may carry weapons. They have a very basic fire control system slave to standard sensor arrays. They will fire on the closest non-friendly target unit within their range. If there's more than one, they randomise it. The attack is resolved using a fixed base gunnery skill of 5 and takes place first during the weapon attack phase regardless of initiative order. And you get a +1 modifier if you go through or are in a hostile ECM field.
Okay. Gunnery skill 5.
Yeah. Now, I did think, well, I've got a BV for these, so technically I could adjust that BV on the scale, right? You'd think. But I didn't want to have to muck around trying to figure out if that would weigh anymore or not. Because, I mean, you know...
If it's not automated, then what is it?
You have a crew.
Yeah, but I mean, that's... Okay.
If it's not automated, then you have to make space for the crew.
Okay.
You have a crew of people, you have gunners per heavy weapon, which is the type of thing that we've got. It's the weapon tonnage divided by 5, rounded up. Right, so...
To half a ton or a full ton?
I assume to a full ton. I haven't read that bit. I didn't read it because the automated weapon system is just... That's it. It control system replaces the standard fire control system for the same weight, size and cost, but requires no crew to operate. So that fire control that I did with the .1, that technically is an automated weapon.
Is that? Okay.
If I don't want it to be an automated weapon, I then have to allocate crew.
Okay.
So you've got to allocate space for them to have a quick nap, to move around, to make coffee, whatever.
Yeah.
They have to have space to move around, and you have to figure out how many you've got, how much space that takes, and then they give you a tonnage for it. But because I'm going automated, I don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, you don't worry about it. Okay, well, that's interesting. That's cool you could do it.
And it's got a section on crew systems and quarters. That tells you what you need and all that sort of stuff. But that is fine. I've gone with a gunnery 5. I thought, no, I'll keep it where it is. Gunnery 5 is fine. That's a potential for 40 extra points of damage on any given turn.
Yeah, true.
And it didn't cost me much in the BV stage, so let's have a look at that. On 379, lots of jumping around. Now, they referenced mobile structures so often that I figured I couldn't find anywhere where I could work out the BV for a building specifically. So I've gone with the mobile structure BV. Mobile structures were referenced so often, I figured we may as well just use them for the BV.
Okay.
Fair enough.
That's fine.
So you're following a very similar set of steps to what we did in the mech one for calculating BV.
Yeah.
So it's total armor factor times 2.5. I've got 40. So it's your armor factor is 16 times 2.5. It's 40, and then your CF times 1.5, which mine works out to 30. That gives you your total defensive, your defensive battle rating. So you add them together. So any defensive equipment first. ECM suites, all that sort of stuff. Active probes, blah, 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 etc. You add that all in. And then you multiply the total by 0.5. And that is your defensive battle rating. Now, I did that and I got 35 as my defensive battle rating. Then you do your offensive battle rating. So you calculate your offensive battle rating by multiplying the weapon battle rating by the mobile structure speed factor, which isn't going to be much. So the battle rating is all of the weapons. So all of your weapons, not defensive equipment, weapons. So each medium laser is worth 46 BV. So I've got 2 of them. That makes it 92. And then you add the number of mobile structure hexes by 50. So I've got 1 hex. I multiply that by 50. I get 50. and then you multiply the weapon battle rating by the mobile structure's speed factor. The speed factor is on 315 of tech manual.
Speed factor.
Yes, speed factor. Technically, it's a thing because I thought, that's ridiculous. It's not going anywhere. Why would I need a speed factor?
Yeah.
I thought I'll be multiplying this by 0, but I looked, and there is a speed of 0.
There's a speed factor of 0.44.
Yeah. For some reason, result of speed factor calculation, which is
Okay.
I mean, it's obviously going to come up as 0. There is no way I could get less than 0. So 0 is going to be my speed factor. But so to find the speed factor of a mech, add together its running movement point and half its jumping movement point. Add 1 to the result if the mech has mask or triple strength armor, and then consult the speed factor table. None of that applies, so I get a big fat 0.
0, yeah. Okay.
And under 0, my speed factor is 0.44. So,
Right.
you,
Well, considering you're an immobile target,
yeah,
you've got to get something, surely.
yeah. So that's 142, and then you take. Yeah, I may have even worked this out wrong.
Oh.
No, you add those two together and then you multiply by the speed factor. So it's 142 times 0.4.
Carry the
Yeah.
9.
Carry the 9.
6. Pi.
See, that's why I was hoping you'd be able to write this down, because mine's all over the place. Even I can't tell what I've done there. So 92 plus 50 is definitely 142.
That's why he's not a doctor.
Yes. Hey, man. So that's 62.48. Yeah, I have done it wrong. Okay, so then you have to... That's my offensive battle rating. Yeah. So my offensive battle rating... Can I borrow your pen?
You may.
Is 62.48. 62.48. And then we add in my DBR, which is 35.00, plus 35.
Is that going to make it cheaper?
No.
More expensive.
It might make it exactly the same, but I've got to see. I've got to see if I did it right or not. All right, so you add them together, and then you round the... Yeah. So you add defensive and offensive and round the resulting sum to the nearest whole number. The result is the mobile structure's BV.
All right.
Yep. Okay. So I did mess it up. I ended up with the 62 circled, and I used that as my BV, but that's just the 142 times 0.4, right?
Oh, okay. Right.
So I didn't add the other 35 in. Okay, so I got to add the other 35 in. So it's 97.48, which is 97.
97.
97 BV is my final. Now, if I multiply that by the 4 that I wanted, I've gone over just a smidge. I might have to recalculate one of my things, because I've gone from a BV of 248 for all 4 to 388. So I've gone a bit up. Whoops. That's why it's important to be able to read your own writing and tell what's going on. If you just have it neat and tidy written down somewhere, then there's no reason for it to go wrong. It's fine. Can I borrow that back?
You may.
So this is actually...
And this is why he's not a doctor, because you go in for a little nip tuck and you come out with, I don't know, a third ear or something. It looks fabulous.
Think of all the extra things you'll be able to hear. Oh,
All
dear.
the gossip you can hear.
All right, so...
What are the Kardashians up to? No one cares. Someone cares.
Someone cares.
Lots of people care.
They probably care.
Well, they would because they're getting paid.
Yeah, well, exactly. So
Anyway.
for this
Turrets.
battle, I have four. I might have to go with 3, but I've got laser turret. There's a CF of 20, 1 hex, 1 level, 16 tons of armor. Gives it a total thing of 36 to
16
bring it
points
down.
of armor.
Yeah, 16 points of armor.
So 1 ton, yeah.
Yeah, 1 ton. Did I say 16 tons?
So 16 tons.
Bloody hell. All right. 2 medium lasers, all the fire control, all the heat sinks are taken care of.
Yeah.
Gunnery skill is going to be 5.
5 because it's an automated weapon system thing.
Yep.
Okay, 97.
So 97 for the BV. So I might make mine with 3 of those. Yeah, that'll make it only like 50 points higher. So maybe I'll just have the 3 laser turrets. We'll see how I go. I'll have to adjust my force a little smidge because I was like within 30 or 40 points for both. Well, for all of the forces.
Well, it might just be as simple as maybe some piloting or something.
Yeah, I might
don't know
have
what
to
you're
drop a
taking,
piloting point or something like that.
That's an easy fix. Doesn't
Easy
matter.
fix.
As long as it's close enough.
Shouldn't be a big deal.
I didn't go over. I was under because of how
Yeah.
things were. So it's like anyway.
There's mine are under, so I'll adjust so that I've either got 3 turrets instead of 4, or I've got slightly worse dudes. It won't be a big deal.
There we go.
But so
36 armor.
yeah, so technically you have
weapons.
to do 36 points to it to kill it.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, there's no rules for criticals for things like turrets and stuff like that. You can come up with them.
Yeah.
I was thinking we could do it like if you do more than 10 points of damage in a turn, you can roll and see if you destroy the turret or something like that. I don't know what the deal is, but you can 100% come up with house rules. I think the reason that they haven't really got much detail in the way of this is that usually if you're going to have turrets in the game, they'll be part of the game. They're not really something that you're usually making people build or add to their forces or anything like that. It'll be a situation where you've got an attacker and the defender gets 3 autocannon turrets or something like that, right?
Yeah, and that's it. It's all worked out. Sort of
It's
thing.
all pre-baked into the scenario. But if you want to go through and build them, there's a heap of stuff. You can even go through and build a Castle Bryan and all that sort of stuff. It's all there.
Because they're pretty big. You could have like an built into the mountains and shit like that. You could have a big walk through the main thing and have a big fight inside and everything. It's like,
They've got a complete section on power generation, different fuel types and that sort of thing. They've got a section on industrial elevators, space construction, and then they have an entire section on Castle Bryan complexes with their own different examples and things as well. And that's a cool one. I mean, they are big enough to move mechs around in. So they're a cool one to have as like just a funky scenario thing if you can manage to pull off the map.
That'd be cool.
You just build your own Castle Bryan and have your players assaulted or something.
2 X-Men right on top as it's going along and they're fighting it out. We could have a modified... Oh, remember that we did that scenario, King of the Hill? We could do a modified one where it's the top of that. Turrets firing... Oh, yeah.
I had some cool ideas for like a Castle Bryan actually. We might go into those in like a notebook one or something.
Yeah.
How's that sound? We can sit down on a notebook one and just talk about scenarios.
Cool. But something simple. 1 level high, just 1 hex, turret mounted.
Turret mounted, 360 degree.
360 degree.
Field of fire, all that sort of stuff. It's only 2 medium lasers and it's only a gunnery skill of 5. But it's still a potential for, like I say, 40 points of damage. And, I mean, I know for a fact you're going to bring an ECM. You want the extra range. You won't bring a Beagle probe. So there'll be an ECM, which means some of them won't work as well as they could. But hopefully it'll all be close enough that even having 3 of them instead of 4 of them, I'm still going to get a bit of an advantage, or at least some extra dice to roll. because as has been stated in the comments, my rolling is crap.
Well, you struggle with even a gunnery skill of 3.
Yeah,
this one's
well,
giving you 5.
I can have a 0-0 crew and still miss. These are like almost the worst you can get. They really think I'm going to hit anything with a 5. Like I say, you could plug that BV, that 97 BV into the spreadsheet that I'm sure you all made with the piloting skills thing, because I did. And you just plug that 97 in and see what the different gunnery skills will cost you, and just say scale it up like a half a ton per increment or a ton per increment or something, that the extra fire control will cost you for a better computer system. That could work.
Just imagine making like an entire force. I've just built a fortress. This is my force. A fortress with just gun turrets on it. Come at me, bro.
You remember the scrapyard one we did? The missiles? The Shadowhawk that I built? Yep.
Oh,
that was originally going to have the grubs, so the grubs under the
Oh,
ground
yeah,
to
yeah.
keep organic stuff out of the scrapyard. But it was also going to have what I was going to call a black tower, which was going to be like a 4 or possibly 7 hex mobile structure
Oh, sure.
with like a factory processing and ore smelting and all that sort of stuff built into it, but also with like turrets around it and things like that.
So that just goes around and eats up all the metal and stuff, and any
So
mech that's unfortunate enough to
There's
get in the way.
Yeah, there's like a half a dozen of those just patrolling through, and so they'll have like a narc beacon so they can flag like anything that's whole. So if it's scrolling along and it's picking up stuff and it's separating it all out and it's blowing exhaust out of that way and all the paper and junk goes that way, and then different metals get weighed and smelted and made into big blocks and stored. When it's full, it goes back to base.
It's like some horrible. Does it have Amazon written on it by any chance? That's where it's heading.
I thought, if somebody's dropped like a whole mech there, that you can ping that with a narc beacon, and a crew will pick up the signal and they'll come out and they'll salvage the whole mech and
That's cool.
take it away.
Yeah.
It was going to be this whole thing, and then I thought, bugger, I can't be bothered. So the Dark Towers were going to be like so many turns away, and that was going to be what was the objective. Was one of the Dark Towers had been knocked down, and they have like a signal emitter that keeps away the grubs. And you were going to have to get into the middle of the thing. We were going to be fighting to try and get to the signal emitter. You have to dodge the grubs until you can get to the signal emitter, and it's got an area around it where the grubs won't go. It's like a sonic thing on a specific frequency. Yeah. And you've got so many turns to get in there, get it and go before the next black tower comes along and starts just murdering things.
Just eating the tower that's malfunctioned.
Yeah. It'll go, tower 643, I found this.
Douche.
Send a message back to the thing, and in the meantime, it's blasting you to smithereens. Oh. But we ended up just shooting each other because that sort of thing takes forever, and you can't do that on video.
I ended up being humbled by your Shadowhawk. Man, that was such a good design. If you haven't watched that video, go back and watch it. Man, that was such a good design.
We'll see if we can put a link. Pella, put a link in there, up there somewhere. Anyway, so that's enough dribble.
So that's turrets. that is just touching the surface. I think there's all different weapons and configurations by the looks of it.
You
and
can do all sorts of things with these. So. And again, that mobile lifter thing is like 19 hexes, and you can put a turret on every single one of those. So
what I like about that,
because you can reinforce it with armor, that can be your
barracks. You know, you put your dudes in there and your tanks and whatever else. You could actually probably make that with like a tank actually parks in there and shoots out or whatever.
Yeah, so you
do
can
with normal building.
You can technically build walls, fences, that sort of stuff as well. You can build like a compound where you'd be able to have like a multi-layer thing with like slits, and they can all fire through the slit. You could do all sorts of stuff. Yeah. It's up to you, and as long as you can get a rough idea of the construction, you need to be able to tell how easy or hard it is to take down, and so things like construction and CF and armor, and what sort of things it can do, and get a rough approximation of a battle value for it, and just go for it. It's all good.
Well, there we go.
Okay.
So that's turrets. So if you found that useful, just leave some comments. Let us know if you have any questions about anything that that we sort of didn't cover or whatever, we'll try and answer those for you too.
What are you on about, Tarron? Is one of the questions.
But in the next video, Tarron's going to be sharing with us his forces that he's chosen.
Yeah, he's going to have to go and adjust them first.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, so we're going to do a bit of a poll or something. That's what was happening?
Pella's desperate to do one of those poll things where you community post where you click on the thing that you like. So keep an eye out.
Yeah.
They're going to be there. Use them or she'll get upset. Okay? Don't be mean.
But the little community chat side of things on the YouTube, if you go there, because we've put some stuff up there already. But yeah, on the next video, Tarron's going to have a selection. And yeah, we want your input. Tarron needs help to decide which one to take because they're all so good and he doesn't know for himself.
I know, I just thought you guys were going to help.
So that's it.
It's all good.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
And we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.